The race to become the Democratic nominee to face off against President Trump in 2020 boasts a packed field. It's so crowded there's no way I'm going to spend time drawing hair on all of these animations yet. There's over 20 candidates involved, but only one will prevail, and in this video, we'll look at the key policy positions in 3 areas that are key to public policy in the US at the moment: immigration, healthcare, and climate change. We're going to focus on the 4 frontrunners, while also taking a look at some of the other candidates who've qualified for the next round of the debate. As this next round is a clear cut-off point for anyone who's a serious candidate. Expect to see the field whittled down from here over the coming months, with some of the long shots beginning to drop out. This video was first posted on Friday on the TLDR US channel. The first few videos we've made for the US channel, we've cross-posted onto the UK channel, but this is the last one we'll be doing that for. From now on, we won't be posting any US content onto this channel, besides in exceptional circumstances, when the news affects the UK and Europe too. So, if you want to make sure that you're up to date with all of our content, then do subscribe to TLDR News US. There's a link to that in the description, or you can head over to youtube.com/TLDR News US, and if you subscribe, that would mean a lot to us. I think it's important before we dive into the candidates that we look at how the process of selecting a Democratic nominee works. As you're probably aware, there have been 2 Democratic debates so far, or should I say 2 rounds of Democratic debates. That's because each round of debates actually featured 2 debating sessions, because they couldn't fit all of the candidates on stage at once. However, that's set to change with the 3rd debate, where the field begins to get whittled down. In order to qualify for this 3rd debate, candidates need to get more than 2% support in 4 recent opinion polls, as well as pulling in donations from over 130,000 people. The polls need to be conducted by one of the organisations on the officially approved list, and can either be from national polls or early state polls. Candidates can't use the same organisation and the same area twice though, so they could count a national poll from both CNN and USA Today as 2 of their 4 required polls. But they couldn't use 2 national CNN polls, only one of those would count. If you think that's a little complex, it's also not so simple when it comes to donations either. Donors who give more than $200 have their names put on record, which means that tracking these donations is fairly easy, but it's the smaller donors who are a lot harder to track. The Sanders campaign says that the average donation they've received is $19, so that's a lot of small donors to keep track of. Because of this, candidates have to self-report how many donors they have, and then tell the DNC when they hit that threshold. This number is then checked again by the DNC further down the road, so cheating at this stage isn't really an option. This threshold marks a significantly higher barrier than for the first debate, where you only needed 1% of polling or 65,000 donors. 10 candidates have qualified for this 3rd debate so far, and we'll be discussing 6 of them in this video, the people who stand some of the best odds of winning the nomination. However, all of the candidates do still have a chance, as the 4th debate, held in October, has the same polling and fundraising targets as the 3rd debate, but with the deadline a month later, candidates have significantly longer to reach these thresholds. This means it's very possible that there'll be more candidates in the 4th debate than there were in the 3rd. That's because candidates aren't knocked out of the process if they fail to qualify for a debate. They can continue running regardless. However, qualifying for the 3rd debate is still very important. Failing to meet these goals is a clear sign that the candidate doesn't have much support, and it's really unlikely that they're going to be able to pull it back from this point. It's not impossible, but pulling out after failing to make it to the 3rd round of debates does seem fairly logical. Anyway, we've talked about the process enough. Let's look at the key candidates who've made it into the 3rd debate and discuss what they stand for in this election. First up is Joe Biden, the Vice President from 2009 to 2017, and to many, he's a clear favourite. His performance in the last debate left a bit to be desired, with him coming under attack from several other candidates, which has led some to worry how he'd fare if he was to face the president in future rounds of debate. That, along with his age, almost 78 at the time of the 2020 election, are some of the prime concerns surrounding Biden. But let's look at his position on the issues. Biden is on his own on the issue of healthcare. Most candidates support Medicare for all. We don't really need to explain that, the clue for that is in the name. But instead of supporting that plan, Obama's former right-hand man is backing Obamacare, making some slight alterations, and adding a public option, i.e. retaining private insurance. On immigration, he's been clear to support the Dreamers under the DACA program. which protects people who were brought into the US illegally by their parents when they were young. As the issue of immigration is a difficult one, a few candidates have gone to some effort to make their policy very precise. However, what Biden suggested is that he pursue a humane immigration policy, but what that specifically means isn't hugely clear at this point. When it comes to the environment, like most of the other candidates, he supports the Green New Deal, which basically calls for a variety of changes in order to halve emissions and get to net zero by 2030. Kamala Harris is relatively new to her role in the Senate, only taking it up in 2017. However, she's not new to politics, previously spending time as California's Attorney General. She's seen as relatively moderate in comparison to some of the more progressive candidates, such as Warren and Sanders, who we'll come to next. She holds a public option stance on healthcare, combining the Medicare for All proposal with private insurance, and proposing that the change would happen over a 10-year transition period. Perhaps due to her background in California, she's firmly against expanding the Mexican border wall, and has floated the idea of scrapping ICE, as it comes under more criticism for fairly draconian tactics. Harris, like many others, also supports the Green New Deal. Next, let's discuss Bernie Sanders. The man with what seems like the weight of the world of Democratic activists behind him, and who came close to running against President Trump in 2016. Sanders is rightly known as a progressive. He is what some would call the anti-Trump. We all know his views on the 1% and on tax, but his record actually goes much further. When it comes to healthcare, he actually co-created Medicare for All, the doctrine that so many of the other candidates have got behind in this race. He's absolutely against private insurance, and wants it completely unavailable for every ailment covered by a government plan. On immigration, as expected, he does not favour any more wall, but is cautious of too much migration, as it could lead to bigger issues for the US. He proposes to reform, but be watchful. Because of his public speaking style, Sanders often gets away with being a bit woolly on some stances, like he is on climate change, an area where he's called for the Green New Deal without really saying much else. Our final frontrunner is Elizabeth Warren, another former lawyer. She's been a Massachusetts senator since the 2013 midterms. Since then, she's been clear for her support of Medicare for All. In terms of immigration, her views are probably the most progressive and migrant-friendly. Warren wants to stop building the wall and even give special support to refugees, as well as decriminalising border crossing, which many say is a key step in protecting the welfare of migrants. She also plans to spend $2 trillion over 10 years on tackling climate change as part of her green manufacturing plan. Mayor Pete Buttigieg and Beto O'Rourke are on the verge of breaking into the frontrunner category, but perhaps lack the experience and name recognition to truly be given a crack at becoming president this time round. Buttigieg is one of the younger candidates, at only 37 years old. He has military experience, which, if you're thinking cynically, always plays well with voters, and is currently the mayor of South Bend, Indiana. He would be defined by most as a progressive, and is actually only second to Bernie Sanders in the amount of money he's been able to raise, showing a huge level of popularity. Buttigieg is not all in on Medicare for All. He sees a role for private insurance and for a public option. In true libertarian fashion, he's described his proposals as Medicare for all who want it. Mayor Pete has also stated that he would not be completely averse to expanding the wall if experts felt that it was necessary. Like others, he's championed the cause of darker dreamers, and on climate, he's uncontroversially in favour of a Green New Deal. Beto O'Rourke rose to prominence throughout 2017 and 18, fighting Senator Ted Cruz for his seat in Texas, and narrowly missing out. This was hailed as an impressive feat, to come so close in Texas, a traditionally quite conservative state. He had a huge ground operation, visiting 254 counties in the state during his campaign, which raised his national awareness and pushed him to a presidential run. On healthcare, O'Rourke supports Medicare for America, a plan which allows people to keep their workplace insurance rather than forcing a government plan if it suits them better. He also supports the premise of the Green New Deal, but wants a more specific commitment to net zero carbon by 2050 and an investment of $1.5 trillion into renewable energy plans. Immigration is an issue close to his heart, as a resident of El Paso, Texas. He does not want to pursue Trumpian policies on the wall, and has stated that he would like to take parts of the wall down, but is sympathetic to the need of a wall in some areas. O'Rourke has an endless list of commitments on migration, most notably pledging to stop family separation and reserved detention only for people who have a criminal history. With all of these candidates fighting it out, the next debate promises to be fascinating, and will include all of the people discussed, plus Cory Booker, Amy Klobuchar, Andrew Yang, and Julian Castro, who have also all qualified for the next round. Tulsi Gabbard and Tom Steyer are also closing in on qualification for the debate, but haven't achieved all of the requirements just yet. Qualification looks much more unlikely for Michael Bennet, Steve Bullock, Bill de Blasio, John Delaney, Kirsten Gillibrand, Wayne Messam, Seth Moulton, Tim Ryan, Joe Sestak, and Marianne Williamson. However, these candidates do still have time to reach the debate requirements before the 4th round, so they don't have to drop out just yet. Despite that, Jay Ainsley did announce that he was ending his campaign earlier this week, so it's possible that some of the others will follow his lead if they fail to qualify. We'll continue to keep you up to date on the primary as it plays out, so if you want to make sure you see all of our videos on the topic, then subscribe to TLDR US. Hitting the bell icon also means you'll be notified every time we release a video. If you want more from us, you can find us across all the social networks simply by searching for TLDR News US. And if you want a name feature at the end of the video just like these people, then be sure to back us on Patreon. There's a link to that in the description.